It is my glory. Everybody should appreciate me. Without me, this would not happen. Right? Without me, this company cannot work. Without me, who will do this job? We will become so much consumed by it. We start thinking of ourselves as indispensable. Right? Like there was this Prime Minister of Great Britain who was in his deathbed, and he was lamenting, "Oh my dear Britain, what will happen to you after my death?" Right? So there is a saying that the cemetery is filled with indispensable men. They all died, but things go on. But the illusion is that it makes us think, it makes us think that without us doing it, no one else can do it. So it consumes us. So why Krishna is asking us to practice this detachment from the results of the work is that so that we can become attached to something else, to something higher. This happiness or this elation that happens when we achieve success, and the frustration or unhappiness that happens when the result is failure, this will distract us from the real goal. The real goal is to develop attachment for Krishna and to serve Him. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. We are Krishna's energies. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Mana shashtani indriyani prakritistani karshati. Krishna says in the Gita that mama amsha, that the jivas or the living entities are my amsha, my parts and parcels. Right? And mana shashtani indriyani. With the mind and the senses, they are working very hard in this world. And we often think that work is all there is. Work, work, work. Right? And we become consumed by it. Right? And we become distracted from the goal of life. Athato Brahma Jignasa. What is the purpose of life? Human form of life especially. It is to realize that I am a spirit soul, Atma. And what is my purpose? My purpose is to serve Krishna. That is the real purpose of human life. So that is why Srila Prabhupada talks about in that verse, he says, prescribed duties, capricious work and inaction. So there is prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. So there are something prescribed according to one's psycho-physical condition. And in those we can think of material duties. Those duties that you perform for a livelihood maybe. Right? To keep body and soul together. You have been given a body. You have to maintain it. Right? And for that work has to be performed. Like if one cannot say that I will not work. Because to keep the body alive, one has to work. For example, if food is served in front of you, you have to pick it up and put it in your mouth. That is work. So just to live, we have to do some work. It is not that you put it in the mouth and that's enough. You have to chew. Right? And you have to consume. You have to keep your body healthy. But for what purpose? Right? That is always should be in our mind. So there is material activities. And then there are spiritual activities. Spiritual activities are those that are given by the spiritual master. What one has to do, our devotional activities. But the key or the secret is to make all of our activities spiritual. So that there is no more material activities and spiritual activities. We don't have a split personality. Like when we go to work, we are like one thing. And when we come to temple, we are like another person. Right? We don't want to be weekend Paramahamsas. Like at work, we are like earn, conquer, right? Be the best, like that. And get all the adoration to ourselves. And when weekend comes, we come, oh, I am nothing. I am a fallen person, like that. No. The key is that we always should have Krishna's interests in mind. Prabhupada uses a word dove-tailed. Dove-tailed means like the tail of a dove, like a pigeon, right? If you see the tail of a pigeon, the feathers, it all aligns in one direction, right? Similarly, a devotee has no independent interests. His interests are aligned with those of Krishna's interests. And his interest is only to serve Krishna. So what Krishna wants us to be detached is because becoming attached to success or failure distracts us from the broader or the higher goal. Sukha dukkha same kritva labha labhau jaya jayo. Krishna says, in all circumstances, one should have equipoised to sukha and dukkha. Labha means profit or alabha, loss, right? At all stages, one should be equipoised with those because the results are given by Krishna alone. And sometimes people misunderstand what is happening and they say it is destiny, right? So they try not to do work. And that is the second part of that verse. Krishna says, never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So, not doing one's duty is irresponsibility. Gita doesn't promote irresponsibility. If you look at Arjuna, every day in the war, he would meet with his forces to finalize the strategy for that day. And at the end of the war, of that day's war, he would meet again to evaluate how they did. So he was not irresponsible. So this is another aspect. So many people blame destiny and they say, oh, my destiny is like that. Why should I bother? It's like going to be like that only. Right? And that was Dhritarashtra's argument. If you, for those who are familiar with Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra would always or often use destiny as an excuse. When Dhritarashtra was asked by Vidura and other leaders that what Duryodhana is doing is wrong, you should stop him. You should be fair to the Pandavas. They are under your protection. You should protect them. And Dhritarashtra would always say, what can I do? It's destiny. Right? I cannot prevent my son. It's destiny. So whatever is happening to Pandavas, it's their destiny. Like that. But what Dhritarashtra was doing was that he was being irresponsible. Why? Because Dhritarashtra was the king. So a king cannot say that, oh, what can I do? It's destiny. Right? King has a duty to perform. And it is very interesting that when Dhritarashtra was not made the king and Pandu was made the king, Pandu was his younger brother, Dhritarashtra didn't use destiny then. He didn't say, oh, what can I do? It's destiny. My destiny that I didn't become king. Right? He didn't use destiny then. He said, oh, this is injustice. How can my brother be made king? I should be king. Right? So see, there is selective application of the word destiny there. So Krishna also doesn't promote irresponsibility through this verse. Right? And Srila Prabhupada says, inaction is sinful. So as responsible persons, we have a right to act. What is our right to act? For example, there is some injustice being done to someone else and we stay quiet. Right? That something is happening and we say, okay, what to do? Is their karma. What can I do? Right? No, if you have the ability to act and influence the outcome, you should perform your duty. Right? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of Dhruva Maharaj. And there is this verse that comes, Matu sapatnya sadurukti nuddha Shvasan Rushadandahato Yatahi Hitva Mishantam Pidaram Sannavacham Jagu Mamatu Sarudhan Prakasham. What the context is that Dhruva, a 5-year-old prince, was trying to get onto the lap of his father, Uttanapad. And his Uttanapad has 2 wives, Suniti and Suruchi. So Suniti's son was Dhruva, and Suruchi was the stepmother. So Suruchi prevents Dhruva from getting on the lap of Uttanapad. Right? And she says some pretty harsh words to Dhruva, to a 5-year-old boy. Right? Just imagine the context. Just trying to prevent him from getting onto the lap of his father, which is the right of pretty much every son. But the words that she uses hurts Dhruva to the core. But Dhruva is not so much hurt by the words of Suruchi as much as he is hurt by the silence of his father. Pitaram Sannavacham. Sannavacham means silence. So by keeping silent, his father was tacitly approving of the behavior of Suruchi. So Dhruva, when he was hearing these words, he was looking towards his father and his father was keeping quiet. So that hurt him more. Right? So that is also one aspect where one is failing in one's duties. So the king is supposed to protect. So Dhritarashtra was failing in his duty to protect the Pandavas, who were also his subjects. They were also fatherless. And so it became all the more important that Dhritarashtra should care for them. Right? But he didn't. So what Krishna is talking about in this verse is not just the functional aspect of doing one's work, but also the higher purpose of getting transformed by doing that work. Who is one working for? Krishna says in the Gita in the 9th chapter, Yat karosi, yat juhosi, yadasnasi dadasi yat, tat tapasyasi kaunteya, kurusve madarpanam. He says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away in charity, do it, Arjuna, as an offering unto me. So our activities are meant to be offered to Krishna. In the previous words to that, he describes the mood in which one should do that work, where he says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Tadaham bhaktya upahritam asnami prayatatmanaha. The word bhakti is used twice in that verse. Bhakti is the mood in which those activities are to be performed. So, the transformational aspect of doing work is that one knows, is fully conscious who one is working for whose satisfaction one is working. In the Vishnu Purana, it says, Varnashrama acharavate pahpuman Vishnur aradhyate. That through our system of Varna and Ashrama, right, the goal is that Vishnu should be worshipped. Atah pumbir dvijastveshta varnashrama vibhagasaha swa anushtidasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. See again this word, that this, what that verse tells in essence is that we have prescribed duties according to our position in life. Right? We may be in a certain varna. Varna is essentially your the category you belong to, whether you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. It doesn't matter, right? According to one's psycho-physical condition, one may belong to a certain varna, or one may belong to a certain ashrama. That is, whether one is student, married, retired, or a renunciant. It doesn't matter. What it says is samsiddhir haritoshanam. that through our work, Hari should be, Lord Hari, Krishna should be satisfied. Like Srila Prabhupada said, our goal is to make Krishna smile. That is our goal, through our actions. So we act for the satisfaction of Krishna, not for our own satisfaction, not for our own adoration. But the secret is that when Krishna is satisfied, everyone will be satisfied. The problem that we have is that we try to impress the creation, not the creator. We try to impress everyone around us, make everyone happy, right? But not the person who made everyone, right? And so we cannot satisfy everyone. That is what happens. Once there was a person who wanted to get married, and he was, meeting girls, and he was presenting those girls to his mother, right? Like, this girl, she is very qualified, she knows to cook, she knows to sing, like that. And his mother would always find something. No, she doesn't know this or that. Some deficiency she will find and reject the person. And this person was getting more and more frustrated with his, experience. So he was telling his friend that I am trying to find a suitable girl, but my mother keeps rejecting them. So this friend said, oh, that's very easy. Find a girl who is like your mother only. And he said, I did that too. And then what happened? My father said no. So we cannot satisfy everyone. If we try to satisfy everyone in this world, we won't be successful. Try to impress the Creator, Krishna. If we can satisfy Krishna, then everyone will be satisfied. That is the secret. Problem is our efforts are misguided. We have been trying so hard to impress everyone, and we end up impressing no one. Right? So this is pointed out very significantly in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Gita, Yajñārtāt karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. That work done for the satisfaction of Vishnu must be performed, otherwise work will cause bondage in this world. So, work done for Vishnu, for his satisfaction, must be performed. That is the secret of this message. So this verse is not against setting goals, having ambitions, things like that. No. In fact, setting goals is required, is a necessity. We must always evaluate ourselves. How can we improve? We should set goals, but we should be very clear or have the clear understanding where the results are coming from. Who are we working for? This should be very, very important, and whose satisfaction we are after. I will tell one story. There was a carpenter, and he was a very good worker, and he had a boss, right, the owner. So he would build houses, framing, right? He would build house after house after house for the owner. And the owner would sell them, and he would pay the carpenter his wages. In that way, many years passed, and the carpenter was getting old. One day, the carpenter thought, I have made hundreds of houses, right? And all this owner is doing is giving me my wage, like that. He should be giving me something more, right? I've been working for so long, right? So he decided that, okay, the next house I am going to build, I'm going to do a really poor job. Let's see what the owner is going to do. So he did a really poor job in the next work, in the next house that he built. And this person was getting really old. So he didn't do anything properly, in fact. So the construction finished, and he came to report to the owner that, sir, I have completed the house. Hmm? And the owner said, "My dear sir, you have been working for me for so long. I know that you are getting old. So, this house that I asked you to build, I asked you to build it for you. This is your house. Please take it." And the carpenter was, yeah, exactly. So, similarly, every single work, if we do, no matter how small it is, for the sake of Krishna, then that itself is our offering to Krishna. And no matter how small, in the Ramayana there is the example, again in some stories it is a squirrel, it is a spider in other stories, but it doesn't matter. When the bridge was being constructed, there was the squirrel helping in carrying tiny, tiny pebbles and putting it in between the big stones that the big monkey warriors were carrying. Compared to the efforts of the monkey warriors, what is the squirrel doing? Right? It wasn't significant from a material point of view. In fact, some of the monkey warriors were sort of thinking, "Hey, you are coming in between. I'm trying to do a work here and you are in between here. Get out of the way." Right? They were not appreciating the work that the squirrel was doing. But Lord Ram corrected them. And he said that in my eyes, the work that you are doing is as important, or the work that the squirrel is doing is as important as the work that you are doing. They are the same. The squirrel is doing what he can do to the best of his abilities. You are doing what you can do according to the best of your abilities. And one has to understand that one's abilities comes from Krishna. One should not forget this. That Krishna says in the Gita, "Rasoham apsu kaunteya prakasho shashishuryayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabdah ke paurusham nrishu." He says, "I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the pranava, the omkar, that sound in the Vedas, in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether. And finally, I am the ability in man." So every one of our abilities is coming from Krishna. If somebody develops paralysis, they cannot even speak. They cannot even move their body. Like I want to move my finger like this. There are thousands of nerves, muscles, etc. in action. And if that communication stops, no matter how much I desire, I cannot do it. So Srila Prabhupada would always stress this. One should not become puffed up by borrowed plumes. This is a phrase he uses. What is this borrowed plumes? There is a story of a certain bird which wanted to look very pretty. So what it did is that he was observing the other birds and they were all saying the peacock is very pretty. Right? So what he started to do is started collecting the peacock feathers. Like the peacock would shed its feathers, he would collect. And he started sticking them onto his body. And he was thinking that by doing that, I will become like the peacock. And he came in the assembly of the birds and everyone started laughing. Because everyone could see that this is not a peacock. Right? But the bird was thinking, "Oh, I am very pretty." And he was like showing it off. Right? So this is our situation. Our ability also comes from Krishna. And one should not become puffed up with that. Okay. So I'll stop here with this message. The message behind this verse in conclusion is that when we know that we have a right to perform our duty, but we do not have a right to the results, what Krishna is asking us is to focus and transform our attachment to him rather than the outcome of the particular activity. When we have that, then we are no longer under any emotional insecurities. where our sense of self-worth, sense of identity is dependent upon recognition by somebody else. We know who we are working for. We know whose satisfaction is more important. And we will not be swayed by any outcome that comes. Right? And this will be very essential for our emotional well-being also. Because we can be happy no matter what circumstance comes to play. Okay? I'll stop here and turn it over to you to share any thoughts, any questions, or any take-home messages. Please. Are there any questions, comments?
Thanks for elaborating this particular verse. As you said, right, in India, we have been hearing from our childhood. And always we have this question in mind when it comes to the applications. Theoretically, right. And I have questions on this one, Maharaji. And the last line, and never be attached to not doing your duties. How we can differentiate? Is it not inactiveness?
That is what it means, to be inactive, inaction, to not doing one's duty. Never be attached to not doing one's duty. Or in the sense that never think that not, to be inactive is the outcome or a solution to this. That sometimes we may say, Sri Srinitaya Sachinandandev Bhagavan ki jai. Sometimes we see we do our duties perfectly, but the outcome is different, opposite. Right? You may work very hard, right? And the outcome is opposite to what you intended, right? And some people come to the conclusion that why bother? I should just not do my duty. Nobody will blame me at least, right? That is inaction. That is what we should avoid. Don't do that. Krishna is saying inact, or Srila Prabhupada says in that purport, inaction is sinful, right? So if you have a duty to do and you decide, no, I'm not going to do it, that is sinful. That is not the spirit of this verse. Okay? And that's where that example of Dhritarashtra comes to play, where he is like, I'm not going to do it. Right? My duty is as king is to protect, but I'm not going to protect the Pandavas. Because he had his own agenda. So he just chose inaction. Arjuna also wanted to choose inaction. If you read the first chapter of the Gita, he said, why fight this war? All my relatives will be killed. Everybody will be unhappy. So it's better to live by begging than to win this war. Arjuna at one point says that I would rather run away, abandon all this, than fight this war. And Krishna says, no, that is not the correct understanding. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, reflections?
Where the last one he was building without his interest, but that is for his own.
Yeah.
That means so whatever you do your full interest.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the activities that we do and our consciousness shapes our next body. So whatever we are engaged in now, in this life, that shapes our next body. Whether our next body is going to be material or spiritual, that is our choice. So it's not that at the time of death I can somehow magically remember Krishna. No. Krishna consciousness is 24/7. Every single moment we have to remember Krishna. Yena kena prakarena mana niveshaya Krishna. Somehow or other, is we have to remember Krishna. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Any other questions, reflections? Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Can you elaborate on how one can know whether one's activity is pleasing
Okay, I missed part of the question.
How can one know whether one's activities are pleasing to Lord Krishna outside of the instructions of spiritual masters?
So question is, how can one know that one's activities is pleasing to Krishna outside the instructions of the spiritual master? Is that correct? Okay. So prescribed duties, one should know what one's prescribed duties are. And it is always nice when one has that feedback loop, right? Like one's spiritual master is saying that yes, what you are doing is correct. It is always nice. And one should always follow the instructions that have been given. The instructions set the standards that we should follow. But it doesn't go into the details, may not go into the details. For example, the spiritual master may say that one should conduct some preaching program, right? Let's say Bhakti Riksha or some other program, preaching. You should preach. Invite people to your home and preach the message of Krishna consciousness. Yes. But the spiritual master may not say that for Sunday you should make pakoras and on Bhakti Riksha days you should make pizza. That may not be there. That's a detail. But the spirit is in alignment with that instruction, in that what you make and what you serve is prasadam. That is the instruction. But the details could be different, that it should be offerable to Krishna. If one is following in that spirit, right, then Krishna from within will also guide. Krishna says in the Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that it is inspired by the Paramatma from within and confirmed by the spiritual master from outside. So not just that I get a feeling and I do this. No, one should confirm with the spiritual master. Right? And I will tell one more thing and I will stop. I know it's time for Aarti. His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, many of you know him. He is in a very responsible position. He was in charge, or he's still in charge of the Pune temple, right? And that temple has more than 5,000 brahmacharis. And he has a very elaborate responsibility. So once he asked his spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, that in the course of my everyday service, I don't get to interact with you. I don't get like a feedback to check everything with you. How do I know that I am doing the right thing? And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said that if you are chanting your 16 rounds attentively, faithfully, and you are following the 4 regulative principles without fail, then every other decision you take will be in line with what I am saying. So this is our way. This is our connection to the disciplic succession. The chanting of 16 rounds, at least, with faith, without offenses, and following the regulative principles. If one is doing that, then one will be in alignment with the intentions of the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. Hope that helps, Prabhuji. Okay, thank you. Hari Hari Bol. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. जय श्री श्री निताय सच्चिदानंद भगवान की, श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की, गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री